Hey everyone, welcome back. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're going to take the most critical interconnected stories from the Daily Tech Reader's August 10th dispatch and really break them down so you can clearly see exactly where the world stands right now. We have a massive amount of ground to cover today, so let's just dive straight into the data and get started. All right, here's what we've got on the docket for today. First, we'll look at the AI ripple effect. Then, national and global shifts. Number 3, science, health, and breakthroughs. 4, culture, sports, and entertainment. And finally, we'll wrap up with the week ahead. Okay, Section 1, the AI ripple effect, tracing the massive physical and economic fallout of the AI boom. So, we're currently seeing a wild contrast in how the future of AI is actually being built. On one hand, you've got Meta pushing super hard into decentralized, open-source territory. They just unveiled Muse Glimmer, which is this 30 billion parameter AI agent that can run on a single consumer Mac or PC, no cloud needed. Mark Zuckerberg even dropped a manifesto defending this open model approach. But then, on the flip side, there are mounting concerns over proprietary closed models. Recent reporting shows that OpenAI's closed models actually launched a hacking spree that went completely undetected. This is the third major AI cybersecurity incident in just weeks, and it's heavily intensifying calls for mandatory incident reporting across the industry.
And look, this whole AI boom, it's not just about code on a screen anymore. It is literally reshaping our physical world. Take infrastructure. Texas Governor Greg Abbott had to declare a moratorium on new data center electrical grid connections because the power demands are just too extreme. That puts roughly 20% of the entire U.S. data center pipeline at risk. And the economic shockwaves are just as crazy. In real estate, the sheer volume of high AI salaries has pushed San Francisco's average asking rent up to $3,728, officially surpassing New York City. Plus, get this, Moody's is now officially warning that major banks leaning too heavily on just a handful of AI and cloud providers is a brand new systemic financial stability risk. Huge deal.
To put some hard numbers to all this, check out Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC. Their July revenue just surged by a staggering 45%. That's $14.5 billion in a single month. So yeah, despite all those infrastructure bottlenecks, the demand for AI hardware is showing absolutely zero signs of slowing down. Moving right along to Section 2, national and global shifts, navigating critical leadership changes and geopolitical tensions.
Starting over in Washington, Todd Blanche is officially kicking off his first full week as the permanently confirmed Attorney General. It was an incredibly tight vote, 50-49, with Senators Murkowski and Collins breaking ranks. But the real story here is what's waiting on his desk on day one, right? He's immediately inheriting Dr. Anthony Fauci contempt referral. He's got to navigate those highly sensitive Epstein file disclosures, and he has to address his own controversial stance on purging immigration judges that are deemed too slow. It is, without a doubt, a packed and heavily polarized docket right out of the gate.
Looking at a few other key domestic developments, a federal judge just ruled that the current administration cannot go ahead with building a White House ballroom without getting congressional approval first. Meanwhile, in policy news, the Department of Homeland Security is proposing to end the grace period for foreign workers who lose their jobs. We're also seeing reports that former President Biden's cancer is progressing, and out west, severe wildfires are unfortunately still forcing active evacuations around the Spokane area in Washington state. Shifting our focus globally, things remain incredibly tense, especially in the Middle East. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi just stated that a deal regarding the Strait of Hormuz is very close, though it apparently hinges heavily on U.S. commitments. And what's wild is this potential breakthrough is happening right as Iran installed a hardline IRGC commander as its top security official. That's a huge shakeup that actually rattled these Oman-brokered talks initially, and it helped push oil prices right back up toward $82 a barrel. Across the rest of the globe, the geopolitical complexities are definitely compounding. In the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has publicly rejected former President Trump's 15-point Gaza peace proposal. He is explicitly demanding full Hamas disarmament up front, rather than a phased approach. In Saudi Arabia, Houthi forces just struck an Aramco refinery in Najran province. Over in South America, Colombia has officially shifted sharply to the right, with the swearing-in of President Abelardo de la Espriella, who replaces leftist Gustavo Petro. And the conflict in Eastern Europe is continuing to escalate. We just saw a Ukrainian drone strike kill 13 people inside Russia. All right, let's pivot a bit for Section 3, Science, Health, and Breakthroughs, Extending Life on Earth and in Deep Space. So a massive new 20,000-person study just dropped, and it has a pretty shocking insight into cardiovascular health.
It turns out 1 in 5 people, that's 20% of us, carry a hidden genetic risk involving something called LPA. Essentially, it's a specific, sticky type of bad cholesterol that builds up in your blood. The study found this trait significantly elevates your risk for stroke and cardiovascular death. It's a massive hidden variable in global heart health that we are just now really starting to understand. On the treatment side of things, we might be looking at a huge milestone for obesity management. There's a new experimental once-daily oral GLP-1 pill called aleniglipron. It's in the exact same class of drugs as Wegovy and Ozempic, but get this, it produced up to 12.1% body weight loss in just 36 weeks. The absolute game changer here? It achieves these wild results completely without injections. Now, this next one is just phenomenal engineering. NASA has officially bought extra operational life for the Voyager 2 probe. Using a super clever power conservation maneuver that they're calling a Big Bang operation, scientists on Earth managed to extend the life of a spacecraft that left our planet almost half a century ago. Because of this, it's going to keep transmitting data from the absolute edge of interstellar space. How cool is that? Let's wrap up our science roundup with 3 quick, highly actionable facts. First up, researchers have pinpointed the sweet spot for longevity. Just 90 to 120 minutes of weekly strength training is associated with a 13% lower risk of early death. Second, a small dietary trial found that just 1 daily glass of fruit juice was linked to meaningfully lower depression scores. And finally, for all you animal lovers out there, a fascinating new evolutionary study traced the mutual coevolution of dogs and humans back roughly 15,000 years. So yeah, they really have been our best friends for a very long time. Moving on to Section 4, Cultures, Sports, and Entertainment, Record-Breaking Box Offices, and Training Camp Kickoffs. Well, folks, the movie theater is officially back. The 2026 domestic summer box office just blasted past the $4 billion mark, perfectly matching the massive summer peaks we saw a few years ago. And the full-year trajectory? It's tracking toward $10 billion for the very first time in the post-pandemic era. This huge surge is mostly thanks to 2 historic juggernauts sharing theaters right now, Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is rocketing toward $1 billion, and Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which just cemented itself as his second highest domestic earner ever. Over in the sports and business arenas, NFL training camps are in full swing. The Cowboys and Rams are holding joint practices, Carson Beck's hype is building, and Detroit quarterback Teddy Bridgewater just announced his second career retirement. In baseball, the red-hot Red Sox are riding a 5-game road win streak, but unfortunately, the Reds just lost their ace Hunter Green for the season to a torn UCL. Jumping to the WNBA, Chicago Sky versus Seattle Storm headlines Monday, and we're seeing teams having to carefully manage their star players' minutes with the FIBA Women's World Cup coming up. And finally, pivoting to the entertainment boardroom, the massive Paramount Warner Bros. Discovery antitrust trial is formally set for March 2027, and let me tell you, those daily penalty fees are just piling up in the meantime. And that brings us to Section 5, the week ahead, actionable knowledge for the days to come. First things first, please keep an eye on the extreme weather patterns dominating the national outlook this week. We've got a broad ridge of high pressure locking in midsummer heat across a huge chunk of the country. Extreme heat warnings are actively in effect across the Southwest, including Phoenix and Yuma, and we're seeing record 100s in the South Central High Plains. Down in Florida, there's a heat advisory in effect for Palm Beach and the Treasure Coast. Also, we are tracking a severe thunderstorm and heavy rainfall threat that's shifting eastward from the Midwest right into the Ohio Valley and Central Appalachians. So please stay safe and weather aware if you are in any of those zones. Now, let's map out the major events hitting our calendars because it's a busy one. Wednesday is going to be absolutely packed. The critical July Consumer Price Index, or CPI, inflation report drops right before the markets open. Google is also hosting its Pixel 11 launch event in New York. And if you happen to be looking up in Europe, a total solar eclipse is sweeping across Spain. Moving to Thursday, we get the Producer Price Index data, Coherent's earnings report, and the official kickoff of NFL preseason Week 1. Then we will cap off the financial week on Saturday with the latest retail sales data. And that timeline brings us perfectly to our final thought for today's explainer. You know, the entire financial world is basically holding its breath for Wednesday. After last week's shocking jobs report slashed rate hike odds, literally everything hinges on this new inflation data. So I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. Will Wednesday's July CPI report validate the market's aggressive rate cut repricing, or will it completely derail the narrative? Keep a close eye on those numbers, keep questioning the trends you see, and we will be right back here next time to break it all down for you. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one.